Good afternoon, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 26, 2022 Public Works Committee meeting. Now is time for roll call and determination of quorum. Here.
Here.
Thank you very much. Now is time for the adoption of the agenda. Have a motion by Councilwoman Armstrong, a second by Councilman Evans. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now is time for general public comment. This is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the committee on any issue not limited to items on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda, except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the city council members present. And I do have one speaker request from Jerry Wright.
Thank you, John. Thank you, members of the council, citizens, staff. I come to you concerned about the fact that the North Rapid Yardway site was declared or said to be closed. I think it's tragic, and I just want to share with you my concern that it's part of an integrated solid waste management plan that was developed years and years ago. I'm not saying that what we did then is what we should be doing now, but it was developed with a great deal of work and a great deal of effort and dedication for a purpose by many people, and it shouldn't be discarded just casually like it's a pain in the neck. So I want to share with you a little history. In 1987-88, we started looking at what we should do to get in compliance with the future of the landfill. And we found out that we were facing Subtitle D. We had waste reduction requirements coming to us. We had a landfill to re-permit and all kinds of things. So we launched a committee through the mayor's office, a citizens committee that studied the solid waste options that we had. And we talked about landfilling. We talked about yard waste composting. We talked about recycling. We talked about co-composting of municipal solid waste. We talked about different types of collection. That plan was developed over a 5-year period, from about 87 till about 92. It was used extensively, and it was developed through public meetings involving a citizens committee chaired by Judy Olson, ultimately by a city council member, Doris Coughing, and ultimately the city council received it in August 1992. Excuse me, my speech is not as good as it used to be. I have a situation in my health that's kind of affecting me, but I'll try to get the story straight across. This is my original copy from 25 years ago. It shows you how well it was worn and used. It gave us guidance on what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and what the community had intended to be done. It was developed with consensus and support. We never were referred to not do it, so the citizens, through their council and through their citizens at large, supported what we were doing. I think that speaks volumes of what we're trying to do today. I've never had a citizen or anyone say we should stop doing what we're doing. In other words, they normally will say we should continue what we're doing. We should improve it. I think by taking the North Rapid Yard Waste site out of the picture, it's crippling our efforts to collect yard waste, especially in the North Rapid area. Until there's a better option, it's one of the few places where people can go and take care of their waste. Before I left the city's employment, we had a plan put together. It was dated in 2010 by HDR, again, a firm that developed a plan, took over about a year, had involvement from the citizens, from the council, from staff. It was adopted and presented to the council as a plan of attack or coordinated effort for the next 20 years. It talked about things like alley service, which you've heard about, had issues that needed to be addressed before it could be done. Talked about the use of landfill gas for either heat or generation of power or some other use. Talked about landfill rates, talked about co-composting, biosolids, and so forth. It was a tool to be used, and many of the issues that you faced in recent years are addressed in that plan. So they were developed to be used and utilized to help make decisions. To make sure that the public and council members were aware of the history, I sent you a copy of this. This is an excerpt out of the 2009 Public Works Report. This happens to be the solid waste part of the plan. I share this only to share with you the fact that every year we did a report. It was presented to the council and to staff and to other people. But in that, every year, I tried to put in the history of why and how we got to where we were. The community was committed to solid waste reduction and a solid waste plan that was going to take us to a part of sustaining an environment. I just can't say it enough that what we put together was a state-of-the-art plan, state-of-the-art solid waste program. We were very proud of. We were visited by 14 countries while I was still on staff. I don't know how many have come here since, but we were world known and respected for our advance in the science of reducing solid waste, providing a standard for people to go to. I just ask that you expect better communication from your staff and from everyone else on what you're going to do. You deserve it. The citizens deserve it. All it takes is a meeting or two, a chance to talk about what's the issue, how can we solve it. Usually an ultimatum or an overnight decision is not the best, but a compromise or a solution joined by people with like-minded thinking will come up with a solution that will work. I understand that a solid waste plan was developed in the last few years. I have yet to see it. I've asked to see it. I've been told it's not available. If you've seen it, I would like to see it myself. But it should be addressing the issues that are being handled today, and that decisions should not be made solely without being informed of what's happening. With that, I'll quit talking because I'm about done. Any questions? I'm available to assist you in any way I can. I'll help you. I have history, experience. I can help the city go where they need to go. You were there once, let's get back there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there anybody from the dais that would have any questions for Mr. Wright? You have to? If you give me just a minute of privilege, if you wouldn't mind. Jerry, thank you very much for coming here today.
You're welcome.
I've always very much respected what you have to say about the landfill. We didn't agree on everything when you were on the council, but we worked together basically on the same level most of the time. And you do have an extreme amount of knowledge about what you did out there. My question for you right now, Jerry, if you don't mind asking or answering, when you were the director out there, other than the Public Works Director, who was above you? I mean, how much actual responsibility did you have out there for the day-to-day operation?
The only person persons that I answered to as a supervisor was either the Director of Public Works or at times when they had an Assistant Public Works Director. That was the only person I worked for. I was available to council members, mayor, citizens, so forth, to appropriately address issues or concerns that they had, and I did. But it was a chain of command.
I appreciate that, Jerry. You know, one of the things that really worries me anymore is it seems like as a city, we don't really pay much attention to what the citizens think. We haven't done too many citizens committees lately. We haven't, put it out for citizen input. These decisions that are made, I know this decision really, really upset my councilmate and myself because of the way it affected our ward. And one of the things that really infuriated us was having 2 days' notice before this hit the public. It seems like there is zero communication from the people that are running these departments at the moment, and it seems like they almost disregard what we as council people think, or, don't even want our opinion on it. And it's getting extremely frustrating, and especially when you get a few hundred phone calls and emails from your constituents who are upset about this. I know that there's a couple of people in my ward that are putting together petitions right now, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a few hundred at the least people that sign this that are very upset about the fact that this just happened so quickly without anybody's input on it. I know that that site specifically, we've had many issues over the last few years as far as people dumping garbage and different things happening up there. But with a committee and talking to people and investing just a little bit of money up there, I think we could have taken care of a lot of these problems. But that wasn't even an option that was given to us. There was zero options that were given to us. And I just really find that very insulting as a council person. So I appreciate you coming forward and giving us this insight on it and this information on this. And I don't think this is the last that we've seen of this, because I think it's going to become an extremely hot topic here in the near future, especially with the fact of elections coming up here real soon. You know, that's one thing that I've always noticed being on this council for a long time, is it always seems like there becomes a really hot topic right before an election. So anyway, I appreciate everything you did when you worked for the city, Jerry, and also when you're on the council. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that we had those events when I was running the solid waste division. We had one time, someone was in the amateur freon removal business, and it got shut down, so they brought us 10 or 12 refrigerators, left them at the Superpark drop-off site. We were not able to trace them, so we picked them up, they were gone. We had other times when people dumped oils or chemicals or paints and stuff on our sites, but they were rare. There were people that were doing inappropriate things, but they were used constantly by thousands of people that appreciated the sites. We did our best to keep them open, to keep them cleaned up. And secondly, I'd like to add, when I was working with the department, we didn't always have a total agreement on it either on a lot of things, but we worked and communicated, came up with a solution that worked. We usually had options. And I'll tell you real honestly, and when I was at council, I expected it too. When we worked with the council and informed them and gave them information, it made our job so much easier. We had their support and their understanding. And that's why we had these committees, and we made it work. We did things, we went from $2.10 a ton to $45 a ton, and I wasn't lynched. We were able to implement a meaningful state-of-the-art program, which was one of the few in the nation, if not the world, without being lynched. In Rapid City, South Dakota, that was phenomenal. We were able to reduce what we were landfilling by about 40–50%, which was phenomenal. We had a landfill that had a life until 2053, which was unbelievable. It was all because of the cooperation between the staff, the council, the mayor, citizens, and so forth. It was a team effort, no question about it. Huge team effort. And when there was a problem or difference, we worked it out. But we always, another thing on that close is say, we consider our customers as who we work for. Not us, not anyone else. We took care of the customer. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Mr. Evans has a question.
I don't have a question. I just want to add an exclamation point to what John and you said, Jerry. It seems just in the 3 years that I've been here on this council that there's been a movement toward convenience for the employees over satisfying the needs of the constituents. And that has not only happened in solid waste, it's happened in other departments as well. And I'd like to see us return to what you're saying was the MO earlier, is satisfying the customer, and those are the people that are voting for us. So I agree with everything you were saying. I agree with everything John was saying. I think the votes I've given over the last year and a half have sort of made that very clear that that's how I feel. So thank you.
I need to do one more commercial of sorts, please, if you allow me to do it. You know, landfill gas, they've been flaring it for 10, 12 years, which is they have to do to be in compliance, but it's a form of energy. And we've done studies, it was included in this HDR report, done studies since that we strongly suggest, and I sent a report when I was still on council to staff, saying we should take this gas and at least seriously consider using it to make electricity. We spend $420,000 a year, I believe it is, for power at the recycling plant. Why aren't we generating our own electricity? It would pay for the investment in no time at all. We're behind times. Thank you. Call me anytime.
Thank you, Jerry.
Except 3 in the morning.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. If there's an, go ahead. Yep, go ahead. I don't have the queue up. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to say, Jerry, thank you for taking the time to come down here and for always being available to offer your opinions. I think that you had very distinguished service to the city, both as an employee and as a council member, and I thought you were a pioneer in recycling as far as I'm aware, and your experience is very valuable, and I just appreciate you coming down and taking the time to visit with us today. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. First and foremost, I do want to thank our staff. I don't think that these decisions came easy, and I get that because I have been talking with Dale Tech and Assistant Director Hassa as well. But Mr. Wright, you touched on a nerve. It's communication, and unfortunately, there's it's not as seamless as it should be. So my proposal, I would like for our Public Works Department, if at all possible, and I know that you're busy, maybe have some sort of community conversation. Community development does a great job with the Coffee with Planners, something like that. I know that you're short-staffed. I know that we have our challenges out in the landfill, but just repeating what my colleagues have said, I think we need to just have a face-to-face conversation with one another, and I think through that we can come to some sort of compromise. You know, I feel for our constituents. I'm one of them that's frustrated with this, but I also see the challenges that Public Works has to navigate every single day, and I know this was not an easy decision. So if it is all possible, I think us sitting down in a room together, finding the time, and that in itself is a challenge as well, but maybe after work, maybe, you know, not in the middle of the day where some people are at work and they can't come, or make it accessible where they can watch from work, do something that what community development does. Just sit down and talk and maybe just problem solve together, because it isn't just Public Works' problem, it's our community's problem, and we need to find some sort of compromise and workable solution. So that is my challenge to you, and I hope we can make that work, and if there is anything that this council can do to make it work, I believe we would be up for that as well. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Laura. I don't think anyone else has anything to say. I don't see anyone else for, oh, we do. We have somebody else for general public comment, I guess. Jim?
Yeah, I forgot the protocol, John. I didn't fill out paper.
That's fine, absolutely. Take all the time you like.
Make a couple of quick comments. So this
If you
thing
give us
about-
your name,
Oh,
not everyone
Jim
knows you.
Peterson, Ward 5. So this doesn't really affect me, this remote shutdown. I can always go to Fitzgerald. But here's the thing. When I've been talking to people about the shutdown of that site, I've heard time and time again that there's a couple of bad apples ruining it for everybody. So what that speaks to is punishment for everybody. I mean, since when do we do, you know, blanket punishment for a couple of bad apples? That's one main issue. The second issue is that the demographics in North Rapid are obviously dramatically different than they are on the west side or anywhere else. The people up there don't have some of the resources that so many other people. They don't have a new pickup truck to run 12 miles out to the dump like I just did the other day. And so we need to address the needs of the community, the entire community. And that speaks to this whole concept of let's talk to the community and see what they need. It's not just Public Works. Public Works is in place for public service. That's the whole point. So what does this community need? What they need up in North Rapid, as demonstrated by those bins being full 24/7, is that site up there, because they don't have the wherewithal to take it all the way to the dump. And even those people that you think are abusing the privilege, or dumping their trash or whatever there on occasion. It's a rare occasion, but it does happen, and it is a pain for Public Works and the people that have to clean it up. But at least those people, when you think about it, they're trying to get the trash to where it's supposed to be. They're not throwing it on the side of the road. They're not leaving it in their front yard. They're trying to get it there. So maybe the problem is that we have people that have stuff they need to get rid of, and they have no way to get it to the dump. So maybe we should have another bin there for general household stuff. Is that going to cost more? Yeah. And that's the other thing that we all hear is nobody wants to raise their rates. Nobody wants to raise their taxes. But those remote sites are paid for by the tippage fees at the dump. And a quarter increase in the tippage fees at the dump is not going to be noticed, but shutting down a community remote site is definitely going to be noticed. So it just seems to me that we are sort of not paying attention to our citizens up there in North Rapid and their needs. And so I think the perfect solution to that is just what Laura said. We should have a community forum. Before we make a decision that intimately affects a neighborhood like that, we should get together with the folks from Public Works and talk it out after everybody gets home from work. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have anyone else from the audience that would like to speak? If not, I'll close general public comment. We'll move on to consent items, items 1 through 17. I will open public comment. I don't have any speaker requests here. I don't see anybody from the audience, so I close public comment. Now we'll move on to items from Public Works, and I will allow the Public Works staff to comment on any or all items they want to talk about.
All right, thank you, Chairman Roberts. Assistant Public Works Director Stacy Titus and I are going to tag team on these. I've got some and he's got some, so, all right. The first item listed is the change order for complete concrete up on La Crosse Boulevard. We've run into some issues with the water system and made some modifications for long-term improvements and some unforeseen underground conflicts with some storm sewer that we made changes to. The second one was a change order to RCS Construction. They were the only bidder on the St. Cloud reconstruction project from 5th up to Highland. Prior to awarding the bid, our staff negotiated with them and got a decrease in exchange for some extended timelines and some other concessions. Change order number 1 is for well number 9, supply chain issues for both, this is for both 4 and 5. We've had some supply chain issues with specific parts related to electronics and everything, and they've asked us for an extension of 30 days just to accommodate them and get our parts in here and get the correct parts. The item number 6 is an agreement with Ferber Engineering to do some additional work over in the Canyon Lake area district, and we're going to increase their scope to do some more design work and some more studies in that area, and it's tagging on to an existing contract we have. My other item is item 9. I'm going to jump ahead and then I'll let Stacy take over. Is we're doing a couple drainage lots. Back in the day, I'll say the Pennington County Drainage Commission had acquired some drainage easement lots, and we're going to take those over. They're within the city limits, and they support our regional drainage facilities that we have. So, thank you.
Thank you. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go ahead and address items 7 and 8 together. 90% of the time when we have contracts or bids that go out, the prime contractor is required to perform 50% of the work themselves. There's probably a unique set of contracts that are sometimes bid where we have a number of trades, electrical, mechanical, HVAC, to where 50% of the work is not necessarily in the best interest to try to adhere to. We want to encourage a lot of bidders. So these 2 items are just the removal of that requirement of 50% to allow more bidders, and it's in the best interest of the citizens in the city to allow more bidders to bid these projects. So that's items 7 and 8. Items 10, 11, and 12 are all vehicle replacements. One of them is a replacement. I should rephrase that here. Item number 10 is a new vehicle, and it's for the stormwater division. The next item, number 11, is for another 2 vehicles, one for sanitary sewer and one for stormwater. The sanitary sewer is a replacement. They will be surplusing a vehicle in that one. And then the last item that I have is a farming contract, which is, pardon me here, item number 12. And out at the water rec facility, we used to land apply the biosolids, and we quit doing that because there was a nitrate issue with the biosolids being applied there. So this is a contract to farm that 200 acres, and it's part of our remediation treatment of that 200 acres. That's all I have.
Thank you, and it looks like we have some questions from Councilwoman Armstrong.
Thank you. Mr. Titus, what do we do with the replacement vehicles, or the vehicles that we are replacing? Yeah, that's what I want to ask.
Out of the list here, there's only one vehicle that's a replacement, and that replacement vehicle will be put on the surplus list.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Stroman?
Thank you, Chair. Stacy, on that number 12 on the farming issue at the water reclamation site, I thought Mr. Van Cleve explained things very well on the bits of part that I've seen on the news. But I was just wondering, so this is a new contract that we're talking about, or is it just a different person doing the farming now, or how did we get to this point?
The answer would be maybe. We have a renewal. It's typically like a 5-year contract. We have done this before on the same property. We are doing a renewal now, and I believe this proposal is going to allow the person to farm it for the next 5 years.
And they're at liberty to pick what they grow on there?
No, this is a western wheatgrass. We require the crop. It is used, it's a very deep-rooted crop. It goes down potentially 15 feet, the root structure, which is removing the nitrates on that. So that is the crop that is to be farmed. It's a perennial, so it comes up annually.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Thank you. And it doesn't look like we have anybody else in the queue, so I will move on to Mr. Beegler.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Items 13, 14, and 15, although they look identical, are actually 3 separate pieces of equipment for the cemetery. These are all utility vehicles, and these will be replacing a couple of old units that are just no longer functional. Those items will be surplused and used as trade for one or more of these purchases.
Thank you. And it doesn't look like we have any questions for anybody. So I will move on to community development.
We're going to tag team, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Where are we starting?
Right here.
Okay.
So on the first one, this is a vacation of right-of-way. We're asking that this be continued to your May 10th Public Works Committee meeting. The city attorney's office is working with the applicant's consultant on creating an exhibit so that when we vacate the right-of-way, we can call back private access easement, and there's a little bit of work as to who gets the property when it's vacated and who needs to be signing those exhibits. So we're asking that you continue that to your May 10th meeting. The next item, I'm going to turn it over to Kip.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. This is a resolution for a vacation of right-of-way for a portion of the right-of-way of East Boulevard adjacent to Lot 1 and Lot 32 and the vacated alley right-of-way, also known as Fire Station Number 1 downtown. So as part of the reconstruction of Fire Station 1, they need some additional room to expand the building and still provide the parking they need. So they're asking to vacate a portion of the excess right-of-way along East Boulevard. This is in line with what has been done previously along East Boulevard. When that was constructed, there was a very wide right-of-way that is currently much greater than is required in our infrastructure design criteria manual. So other properties up and along that portion of East Boulevard have vacated right-of-way to get some portion of their property back, and we would like to do this for Fire Station Number 1. It's about 40 feet of right-of-way that's between the sidewalk and the existing street.
I believe they did that on the opposite side of the road too, didn't they?
That is correct. They did that on the opposite side of the road for the Ascent Innovation Center.
Yes. Do we have any questions from anybody on the dais? If not, I would look for a motion to approve everything except for item 16. Have a motion to approve by Councilwoman Armstrong, a second by Councilman Stroman. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item 16, approve resolution 2020-1 22-032- resolution for vacation of right-of-way of a portion of Lot H4 of the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 22, T1N, R7E, BHM, Rapid City, Pennington County, South Dakota, property generally described as being located west of the intersection of Golden Eagle Drive and Villaggio Lane. Have a motion to move this to the May 10th Public Works meeting by Councilwoman Armstrong and a second by Councilman Stroman. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Does anybody want to adjourn? Nope. I think we probably have a motion to adjourn by somebody. And a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much for a great meeting. And thank you again, Jerry, for coming in.